And those of us, the residents of color and myself, we were the ones who were talking about the pain that we felt experiencing watching George Floyd's murder and so on. And our white colleagues were being fairly quiet, and I made a decision that I was going to call them into the conversation. And that was really a game changer for us in our program because our colleagues, our white colleagues, were able to express to us, you know, they sometimes they wanted to say something, they didn't know what to say, they didn't want to say the wrong thing. And of course, another thing that we hear from our white colleagues is, well, I was just raised to not see color, and you know, everybody should love everybody. And this was an interesting part of the conversation also when we addressed it with staff. And I had done a Zoom meeting with residents and faculty, and that became very meaningful. And we did it with staff, and it was a very different tone with the staff. Our staff is mostly white. And again, the sentiment was not, you know, not in a negative way, but I was taught not to see color. And I think we should all just love each other. And that, when you say it that way, that negates the importance of the conversations about racism. And it silences those of us who have experienced racism and want to be able to talk about it and need to be able to talk about it. So be prepared if you plan to have these conversations in your programs, which I strongly encourage you to do so, because your residents of color are most likely feeling the pain when these incidents occur, and they may not feel comfortable asking you about it. So just reach out in simple ways. How are you doing? I was thinking about you, that kind of thing. You know, I was on a Zoom call with the mentors, doing a presentation with the mentors for the Underrepresented in Medicine project. And I shared some of the struggles we went through in our program. And one of my colleagues, who is not Black like me, just chatted and said, Kathryn, I'm sorry you went through that. I see you, I hear you, and I'm with you. And that just made such a huge difference. So if you can even connect with your residents of color and your faculty of color and let them know, you know, I can't understand because I'm not in your shoes, but I want you to know that I'm here for you and I support you. So that was the residents and faculty. And then in terms of developing the educational resources. So I've been fortunate, and it's very challenging, but I have been doing this kind of work for quite a few years. So I am comfortable with the language of racism and anti-racism and have developed several resources over the time that I've been doing this work. And I'll just mention a couple. So one of them that I found really helpful and meaningful is Camara Jones's tripartite model of racism, where she talks about individual racism, which is individual acts, individual overt or even covert, subtle, implicit bias types of acts of racism, and institutional racism, which is the systems that we all exist in, be it the business world, be it the educational world, be it our hospitals, that persist in racist-based policies. You know, when you think about it, our country was built on racist principles, really. Racism was so much the foundation of the beginning of this country and who we are as a people. And it is absolutely a mistake not to talk about it. And you have to understand that the power structures in this country were built on the idea of domination of white males, because they were the ones who moved here and settled and brought slaves to build our country and so on. And so you have to be able to have these kinds of difficult and challenging conversations. And I do have some resources that I'm going to try and put in the chat when I'm done while Kristen's speaking. I'll just say, you know, the AAMC MedEd portal has done a great job really on addressing anti-racism issues. So then came the question of understanding my responsibility to the larger society in terms of addressing health equity and anti-racism. And I take this on, and I'm proud and pleased with the national work that I've been able to do. And at the same time, you know, it is exhausting and draining. And I know that I have to take care of myself. And I encourage those of you who are interested in getting involved in this work, you know, definitely get involved. And at the same time, be able to realize that sometimes you have to say no, you can't take it all on. But that was sort of another stressor on me. And so that brings me to the fifth part of it, which is my own self-care. And what do I do to do that? Well, I talk to my colleagues who really understand where I'm coming from. I talk to my colleagues of color who have walked the kind of walk I've walked and experienced that. And I talk to my white colleagues. And you know what? You don't, my white colleagues, you don't have to have the perfect answer. But if we can engage in honest, open dialogue, then that is really what is beneficial to me. And in terms of the work that I do, I know that sometimes I just have to say no because I can only take on so much. So I have lots of other things that I want to share with you, but I do want to share with you another experience, something that happened actually before the coronavirus pandemic or the George Floyd murder of anything. And it was something that happened in our community, the community where I live, Flagler County, and Palm Coast is the city I live in. So some of you know I have a son, a 17-year-old son, and he runs track. And I just so enjoy the track meets. They're really long. If there are any track moms out there, the track meets, they just take a long time. There's so many different events. There's so many schools and so on. And I remember, walking around the track meet and just feeling such a sense of pride, looking at just a sea of students of color. And the thing about track is that it's a sport that's accessible to almost anyone because it's not a very expensive sport. And I just really enjoyed seeing all these black and brown kids out there on the field. They're walking around, their heads held high, they're exercising, they're stretching, they're doing all those kinds of things. And I just thought to myself, wow, I just hope that the opportunities that the kids have on this field, I just hope that one day I'm living in a world where they have all these opportunities out there to become whoever they want to be. So I want to tell you about a young man that my son did track with. His name was Kurt. And Kurt was a wonderful guy, a real inspiration to my son who does triple jump. And sadly, Aaron was getting ready to go to track practice one day, and he was sitting down at the table putting his shoes on. And he said to me, "Mom, unfortunately, somebody on our track team passed away." And he was talking about Kurt. And it turned out that Kurt, who was an African-American young man, 18 years old, was shot by another African-American man, 19 years old. And it was a case of wrong place, wrong time. And the 19-year-old had a record and several felonies behind him and so on. And as you might imagine, this incident broke my heart as a mother of a Black son, just knowing the dangers that are out there. And my heart was broken for both of these families. And I just remember thinking to myself, as a mental health provider, as a healthcare system, as a society, we failed these two boys. There must be more that we can do to give them every chance in life. And I will say that the community really came out and supported Kurt's family, and they did a fundraiser and so on. And I actually brought a shirt to show you, and I know it's Zoom and you might not be able to see very well, but I want to show you. The shirt says, is hashtag long live Kurt. And it's a picture of Kurt in his high jump pose, long jump. And he has wings on. And so, out of that ugly tragedy, we really saw the community come together. And there's an award that they give out every year called the Heart of a Champion. And they're going to be naming that award after Kurt from here on. So we get to honor him. But I wanted to share that story with you and just to convey that I take this work very personally, and I appreciate the opportunities I have anytime I get to talk to an audience like yours. And I really want to encourage you all to do this kind of work also. And you don't have to be a minority like myself or Kristen. You can take this on, you can embrace it, and just be prepared to lean into those difficult conversations. And again, thanks to the Forum Committee for creating this space for me to present this information to you.